All right, what is going on, everyone? Should be good to go. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas weekend. We had a 3-day weekend. Market was closed Friday, half day Thursday. We went live on Thursday. I'm going to be going live a couple times. I think Tuesday and Thursday this week is the plan. Market's only open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday this week, full, and then it's just closed Friday. Lots to talk about. And there's a lot of interesting things actually developing that are going to be kind of pushing the market, I think, potentially kind of up and down. I think we're going to be seeing the same type of thing. I mean, look at the past couple of weeks, briefly on SPY, as we're just waiting for people to jump on in. The past few weeks on SPY, it's just kind of been, zigzagging, right? We broke out to all-time highs, awesome, pushed up, came back, and it was like, oh, stimulus, no stimulus, yes stimulus, this is bad, new strain of COVID, like, it was just like zigzagging left and right, and here we are. We kind of pushed up into the end of the day on Thursday, so things look decent. We'll see what's happening. A lot of stuff, I guess, we're gonna have to watch from potentially turnover or continuation from last week. And yes, Cscw is definitely one. Let me pull that one up. Actually, I think I should. I'm actually in it, but not in it large because. My rationale behind this one was I loved it down here. Look at this trend line. Look at this support we had. Loved it down here. Under 50 cents, under 55 cents was great. When I started to take a position, I mean, I had it on my list days prior, but when I was looking to take a position come Thursday last week, it was already running. So for me, it's just how I trade. I just can't get myself to go in, heavy at least, or go in with very much. So I pretty much went lottery size, like 1/10 of a max position for me here, riding it up. I already have orders set, sell orders set over $1, up around $1, and potentially further. So it'll be a few bucks for me. Maybe this thing goes to $2 and I miss out on potentially, larger gains. But the rationale is that I have a catalyst. They have product launch right on the 31st, which is awesome, into the end of the year. But I think there's actually a better play. I think we can take advantage of something that's actually hasn't run yet, and I'll talk about that one too. But we have some range. So this thing breaks back up. I think I want to see $1 first is the first target I want to see, and then potentially past that we can see. But because the reason why I like it is because this stock ran up on Christmas Eve. There's generally lower volume in the market. So if this was actually a regular market trading day, for example, if it was a normal Thursday in the market and there was no holiday, there would probably be a lot more traders on this stock. And so I've seen Cscw making potentially a bigger run. So that's why I like continuation into next week. So it should be interesting. It definitely should be interesting. It's probably one of the first ones I'll be watching. It may even be something that I wake up to my sell orders being hit. We'll see what happens. But there's a bunch of other stuff that I think will be running too. A lot of SPACs have been hot. We'll probably talk about a bunch of SPACs here. I'm not super heavy in SPACs, but I'm not going to doubt that they're doing great. I mean, a lot of these SPACs, the thing with these stocks is that they come in price, right, with the stock price around $10. But if you just look into a lot of these companies, a lot of their valuations are significantly higher than the actual price of the stock that it's sitting at. So it's like almost a no-brainer that this is going to go up, right? And it's been working. My only thing is that it works until it doesn't, until something happens. So maybe nothing changes for a long time. I don't know. But you just don't want to be caught, loading the boat a little too late. You always want to be early to these trends. So, that's how I see the SPAC plays. That's why I'm in a few to take advantage of them, but I'm not going to be, overloading, and I'm not going to be buying them up too high. That's just my take. I've made, good money on plenty of them already in the past. So, end of the year sell-offs, I don't know. That's my only thing. So here's what we got. So let's take a peek. Futures are up. I didn't know what to expect with futures, to be honest with you. I think when they first started trading, they spiked down, then it spiked up, and then they're kind of holding up. So I didn't know what to expect, because here's the thing. I wanted to pull this up really quick. This is just Trump's Twitter page, and he said, "Good news on COVID relief bill, information to follow." That was about an hour ago. So, I mean, maybe this comes out while we're on the stream, maybe it doesn't. But that's what we got to watch. He says good news, market goes up, right? You would think, off good news off of this. I would think, though, to be honest, if we do get $2,000 stimulus checks, and Trump also says he also wants $2,000 stimulus checks, not just to everyone who got it last time, but he wants to give that to dependents as well. So that would be a lot of money potentially, and I know a lot of people need this money, but there's also a lot of people who are in that kind of threshold who certainly will get the $2,000, but who still have their jobs. And that's what we kind of saw last time, and the market was on fire for months. So maybe that fires things up even more, especially once this finally gets into the American people's pockets. I don't know. I would think so, but at the same time, because Trump's trying to, Trump wants these demands, you got Democrats on one side who are saying yes, 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 but then you got Republicans on the other side who are like caught like, what do I do? Do I say okay, yes, or do I say no? I don't want to spend money. It's this whole, man. I don't even know. So we'll see. That's going to be that could be a good catalyst. I think we're going to potentially see good and bad news coming out from who knows who. That could be bringing us along, stringing us along in every which direction. So ultimately, though, my thoughts is that if we do get stimulus, this should be good short term, and then maybe we see some potential volatility come time, end of January. Who knows, right? Potentially, right when Biden is supposed to be taking office, who knows what happens? Rumblings, Trump, this, that, who knows what happens? Maybe we see some volatility around then, some kind of drastic spikes, drastic kind of moves in the market. That's what I'm thinking for now, and then we'll see what happens. At the end of the day, if we go back to SPY and just take a look at how the overall market's been performing, so we had this massive move, right, from end of March, right? And now we're starting to see, at least lately, the slope of our uptrend is starting to kind of slow down, which is fine. That's fine. That's more normal. We shouldn't be, not realistically, with everything that's going on, these moves we're making, I think is kind of ridiculous. But, with these big moves up, you can also get these pretty big drawdowns. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a decent drawdown, but we are holding up around this 365 or so support. So my anticipation, I still say potentially 400 on SPY before, in the next few weeks. I think with stimulus, I think is very, very possible, very doable. And I think it would keep a lot of stuff hot. FTFT Bitcoin play. Let's take a look at Bitcoin because this has been one of those things to talk about as well. So really quick, let's look at the 1 hour chart on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin made this pretty big move this weekend for those who are, who weren't paying attention. It's actually kind of crazy. So we had this consolidation, this initial move over 20K, great. Then this consolidation, and then now here's a big move. So the question is that this move happens right over the weekend when market's not trading. Obviously, you can trade crypto, but when the actual stock market's not open, so a lot of our Bitcoin-related stocks, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. They're probably going to gap up, but to what extent? And then come tomorrow morning, for example, if we're looking at stocks like some Bitcoin stocks, like for example, MARA is one that I would like. You would think that MARA should be clearing out over this $14. I don't know. Does it happen? Is it worth? Is this, one of those, is this a situation where it's worth getting up at 4 a.m. for Webull and throwing an order in quickly and trying to ride up a day trade or trying to quickly, grab shares as cheap as you possibly can? I would say, to be honest with you, if you can get Mara under $12, theoretically, that makes sense, and that would probably be a solid trade. You'll probably be able to sell that thing for 14 plus, you would think, as long as Bitcoin stays up at its levels. If Bitcoin pulls back and has a pretty hard sell-off into the open of tomorrow, that could throw things for a loop. So we'll see. Let's pull up FTFT really quick. So this thing just kind of dropped off on Thursday, bounced down to this 200 SMA. So this could be actually a decent dip buy. So, okay, we had this trend line that it kind of cracked, right? So it cracked the trend line, but 180 puts us right at that 200 SMA, which also could be an area of support that we're seeing. So we also had a dip down to around that 175-ish area. So I would say 180 is probably fine. If this thing rips up, though, with Bitcoin, you may not be able to catch this thing much under $2. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting morning tomorrow to see. It definitely looks like potentially a bounce play. XTNT. This thing's actually looking like look at these spikes. This is another one of those kind of primed up, beautiful plays. It's coming down, kind of getting quiet again right here in the low ones. I think under 125 looks fairly fine. Under that 50 SMA looks decent. I would say support down to it has to support down to 110. Wouldn't want to see it drop below the 200 SMA because if it does, maybe $1 holds. But then you're kind of, unless you have a plan of adding down all the way down to maybe 75, 80 cents, maybe, if it does dip that far. But this looks like it's setting up, and it has that history, so I do kind of like it. And what you can also potentially do is draw some of these wicks, see if we can draw a trend line. It's a pretty decent trend line right there. We're definitely well within the trend, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a little spike up towards that trend line, which gives you a nice, 30+% move, which I do kind of like. Let's see. SGBX is one that was pushing up a decent amount recently. So this is the question with SGBX is that it finished after hours at 535. Why is that actually a key level? Because 540 is the 538 actually is the prior high here. So if it can open up and gap up, now if market stays green, it definitely has the chance to gap up. So it was up 3% in the almost 4% in the after hours session on Thursday. This could be a gapper candidate, and then this thing this thing breaks over 538. We look back to the left, and I would be targeting 6 plus on this guy next, and looking to some of these spikes. I mean, this is one of those stocks that I actually like a lot. I talked about it in one of the top penny stocks to potentially buy and hold for 2021. It's getting up there, so of course understand that, hey, if it's getting up there, you take lock some profits in if you are holding this thing. But if it starts pushing up over 6, that's looking awesome. And they do have some connections to Blink charging as well, so I do kind of like that. And Blink's been moving up like crazy. Let's see. ELYS. Let's take a look at ELYS. Popping up a lot. I think I was watching this one last week. This one got a lot of attention last week. I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but I think though it is in a pretty hot sector. Sports betting and gaming technology company. This is a hot sector. Gaming, sports betting, that's just been very hot. Now, ideally, I'd like an entry lower, so I would give it some time. If you're not in this stock yet, let's see what happens. It's had 3 days up here over $5. Let's see if it consolidates. It may fill this gap down to like 525-ish, 535. So a lot of times when you see the gaps, right, we always like to look for bottomed out plays with gaps. So we like to fill that gap to the upside, but the same thing can happen to the downside. So you might not, if it doesn't continue to the upside, you may get a gap filled to the downside and may develop some support here in the mid 5s and then make the next move up, potentially. That's potentially what I'd be looking at. SON looks bottomed out. Yeah, it's on my list. They have data coming in early 2021. At least they're quoted saying so. So I do want to see if I can buy some SON this week. Ideally, I had a position in it, and then I stopped myself out as we made a new low, but it seems like it's potentially trying to hold up in the low 2s. So I'm going to give it a day or two, and then I'm going to look to grab some before we move into 2021, because I think at that point we could be seeing data anytime soon. And then with that, look at the prior spikes on SON. It has 100% potential written all over it, so that's why I like this play. So, big gap coming for Bitcoin stocks. Yeah, it's and the question is going to be if you are someone who, and really when it comes down to buying pre-market and whatnot, it's always somewhat of a risk, because if you buy stocks pre-market, you're essentially paying a premium most of the time, not every time, unless the momentum really follows. So that's my only concern, is that if Bitcoin does die out and fade off throughout the rest of the day, you may get that quick gap in the pre-market hours, but it may actually kind of fall off. So I'm hoping that we see continuation. So I'm probably going to take a shot at some of the Bitcoin stocks. We'll see. My top few would be MARA tomorrow. I think this thing can make a shot to 15 plus if Bitcoin stays up where it's at. We have RIOT. Let's take a look at RIOT. Same thing. I think this thing can go, even potentially further, maybe to $16, $17. I do like MFH. This could be kind of like the hidden play that doesn't get that much volume in pre-market. This could be worth grabbing pre-market as volume potentially comes in. This could be one that makes a shot and makes a real pop to. This is at like one of the lowest floats out of a lot of these Bitcoin plays, and the largest short percentages of float, or at least it has in the past. So I kind of like it. I actually sold it last week, of course. That's probably a mistake. Just to clean up my things, clean up everything for the weekend, because for the weekend, personally, I like to kind of go into the weekend pretty cleaned up and not have to worry too much about what happens over the weekend. So for example, Bitcoin-related stocks, I wanted to just get rid of them, and then I can reassess next week. Now, of course, it's kind of, up in the air of like, hey, if Bitcoin gaps down, I could wake up getting crushed. Bitcoin gaps up, I could miss out. So it's kind of one of those situations. I held over the weekend last week for lottery shares, so that's my take. What else? We have NXTD is going to be a pretty big one as well. NXTD came right back down to the low 1s, and then it's showing some signs of support here on 125, or it's trying to hold up around 125. This should be a gapper as well. Wouldn't be surprised for NXTD to make a continued or a very sustained move from the low 1s or mid 1s when you wake up tomorrow, back up over $2 if Bitcoin does stay where it's at. I do like that. I really like that, actually. FRSX halted in Israel. I saw that. Yep, I saw it potentially as an offering or a potential big announcement. So we'll see. That's one to be watching. Could be a potential big news coming for FRSX, or it could be offering news, which we, obviously would not be good. Pdsb is actually interesting. So Pdsb had news. Let me go back to like the 4-hour chart and pull this one up so you can kind of see this a little bit better. Pdsb was a swing that I had that I sold all of my shares last week, but I'm looking at potentially reload. So yeah, this spike right here up to about 244 was the high, I believe. So there was news. They actually had news. It was not widely kind of adopted by people, by traders in general. And so it kind of came right back down. Ideally, it would have been great to sell my shares there, load back up, and then it finished strong into the end of the week. So I think it has more in the tank. And ultimately, right, why are you selling? I mean, you could be selling towards the top of the range. It's been in a rough range from the low 2s, upper 1s to like, 250 or so. So yeah, selling up towards that level, I get it. But if it can break out above that 250, 275, this thing has a lot more room, I think, in the tank. And it could make a shot to fill this gap up here up towards 375. So it has over $1 potential, I think, in the tank for sure. Only problem is that when I see a stock announce news, generally I like to just sell out, because for me it's like, like at this point, chances of them dropping more news, if the news doesn't catch the first time, it might take some more time. So I'll let it I'll take my profits. If it wasn't as much as I thought, okay, cool, let it come back down and rebuy. Unfortunately, it started to kind of push up slowly but surely, after I sold, even though I did sell to, up to where it kind of is right now. So it is what it is. AMC, let's take a look at AMC. AMC is actually right back down to where it was. So AMC down under 250, I think actually is pretty decent in terms of an entry. I do kind of like that. Wouldn't want to see it dropping much below 2. 195 here is looking like our low. Wouldn't want to see it drop much more, but this could be a decent play, especially if things opening back up. Personally, though, I'm not a huge fan of AMC long term, but I think in at least the semi short term, few weeks, few months, potentially a year or two, there's recovery potential here for sure. And traders, it's a thicker float. So what does that mean really? So it's not going to move as fast as like a super low float penny stock, right? Although it's in that kind of price range category, right? It's under $5. This thing, it has potential to move more than a few percent in a day. It can certainly make a pretty big move, but the float's pretty big. So if we go over here, let's go to FinViz and pull up like AMC's float. So 106 million shares that are available to trade, which, at the end of the day, that's a decent thick float. So you can feel comfortable going in heavier here and not having as much volatility and downside risk potentially if things do go wrong or if things do kind of sell off. So that's kind of one of those things, sort of like what was that stock that I forget, I'm drawing a blank on that stock. One of the recent stocks, the car company Hertz was one of those, kind of a thicker float, and so traders loved it. It wasn't going to be super volatile, but it was a kind of a slow grinder, made some crazy moves, over the course of a day. It wasn't like a super quick, in minutes. It happened over the course of hours and through the day. Let's see, GPS can run up or continue its downfall. Let's take a look at GPS. GPS. It kind of broke out of this uptrend that we had, so unfortunately that doesn't look great, but it's trying to develop some support here around 20-ish. So I would say, okay, we had a little bit of a drop down here to 1950. I would give it a wick down to that level, but if it can hold up around 20, that's fine. It's looking like it's consolidating and it's potentially getting ready for either a move up or a move down. So decent risk reward, I think, at this point, although it is up, quite a bit in the past few months. Is it something that I personally would be trading? No. But again, it's still looking like it's consolidating around $20. If it can hold $20, give it a wick down or so. Wouldn't want to see multiple days closing below $20. Really, a close below $20 is not a good sign. That's just my take. Unless we have a crazy market sell-off one day, yeah, could it close below 20? Yes, any stock could kind of make a crazy move down. But personally, that's my thoughts on that. TRVN bottom plat. Let's take a look at TRVN. This is one that I've been watching, or at least it's been on my radar for a little bit now. This actually is a decent setup. So kind of a rough downtrend break, this trend line that I have roughly drawn in, and it came down on, I would imagine, lower volume on Christmas Eve, right? The last day of trading. But what it may be doing here is it may be showing this 225 to now be support. So you break out of a downtrend. Oh, now I'm getting a FaceTime. Sorry about that. So you break out of this downtrend, and what I like to see with a lot of these things is when they bounce back off that downtrend, they show that to be support. That's what I would like to see. So if it opens up here and looks pretty good, that's what I would like to see into next week, into this coming week. So if it finds support 225, boom, we're good. Not a super, I mean, it's relatively kind of low, but it's what it is. Sorry about that FaceTime, guys. I was just kind of getting thrown off. My girlfriend should know that I am going live. She apologized. She understands. It was a missed call. I got the apartment to myself though right now, so we can jam out. No, I'm not gonna. Trump just signed. Oh, okay. Here we go. So there it is. Okay, thanks for that information, because he was saying, right? He was saying that we got information, right? So if that is true, he hasn't tweeted anything right now, but if that is true, that's big. So we'll keep an update on that one. But let's take a look. What are the futures looking at? So they're looking like they're actually trying to push up a little bit here. So we'll keep an eye on this stuff. Find that's awesome. That would be potentially really good news for the market for right now. I mean, I think the way that I see it, I don't get political on the channel, but I think we need to get it signed. And if you want the $2,000 checks, let's try to do that separately. I don't want to get I know there's politics involved, but let's do that separately. The bill is done. It was agreed upon. Let's get it done. Let's get it in the hands. People need the money, right? That's how I see it. Okay, so let's look. Zoom is going to be one we can watch. I think we got to see. So Zoom is actually sitting in a good spot. Zoom is like at 375. I like that. I kind of like where it's at. I don't want to see it dropping too much. If it does drop, then here's your gap down here towards this 325. That could be, if you do drop below 375, 365, then I would say 325 could be a better potential entry. Why? Because you have a gap fill to the bottom. So that's that. Also, so we were talking about Cscw, penny stock play. It was running up. Let's pull this guy up. No, not this one. Cscw, Color Star Technology. So here's my take on a potential play off of Cscw that is not being talked about. AMBO. Why is this? Because they're in the same sector. They're online education related stocks. Okay, they're in the same sector, and AMBO is also a China stock as well. And look at the chart. Very similar chart setup to Cscw, except where are we sitting right here? Extremely favorable risk reward for us right now. That's why this is one of the top stocks on my list for tomorrow for potential entries, especially if I do see Cscw really continuing to push up and making some big moves, because I think traders will come to this one potentially as a sympathy play, whatever they want to call it. I don't really care if they call it a sympathy play, whether it really is or it isn't. I don't care whether this stock has any merit to really run up. I don't know, but they may come for it, and it's sitting in a pretty good risk reward based on the trend line, so I do like that. And they also have had some Amazon related news. They've had some pretty big press releases in the past, which are caused some of these spikes. So I like seeing that. Let's see, Workhorse. Would you recommend a put option? Personally, I'm not sure. I depends on the stock. There's a lot of stock option plays. You kind of have to be a little bit careful, especially if you're new. But for me, I would say, if you're looking for something, if you think a stock is going to go down, yeah, you can play a put. But at the same time, understand that, if the stock, you have to give yourself some time, and you have to kind of understand, and I wouldn't be going in big. So for me, for my account, right, when I take a position on any given stock, I mostly do shares because I just feel more comfortable in my technical analysis, fundamental analysis, my risk reward. So I'm just much better off with managing shares than I am managing options, just mentally. That's just what I've found lately, okay? So it really depends on you. So for me, like if I have 10% of my account as my max position size for one given stock, that's what I'll do. But that being said, when it comes to options, maybe at that point, I only give 5% of my total account is my max option size. And really, that's even potentially getting a little high. Maybe it's really only, 2% of my account, 2.5%, because you always have the factor of options potentially being able to go to zero and expire worthless. So if that's the case, do I want to be, you have to understand, you have to either know what you're doing, manage your risk properly so you don't lose all your money. That's why I don't like to play them that much, because I generally like to play stocks that have potential to move 20, 30%. So I'm fine with taking my small wins, stacking them up, consistently. Whereas options, you can have big, massive hitters. You could lose your entire trade unless you're not, if you're not managing it properly. That's why I would recommend selling covered calls and potentially puts to start off, just to get a feel for options and then getting into it. But the actual one option trade, it's kind of like a lottery option that I am in, is Johnson & Johnson. Because look, take a look at this Johnson & Johnson chart. They have their vaccine in the next month, I believe, right? We're supposed to be seeing some more information about their vaccine. And on top of that, they are in a very interesting period. They're in a very interesting spot. They have some very strong resistance up over 155. Between that 155, 154, and 157 is extremely thick resistance. So I want to see Johnson & Johnson potentially make a breakthrough over those levels because of their vaccine, which is one of the larger catalysts here at play just for the overall market in general, not just Johnson & Johnson. And if we do, I could see Johnson & Johnson making even just a 5-10% move, which wouldn't be anything ridiculous. But that said, for this stock, for the options that I bought, which are a little out of the money, they're 165 or 167.50 calls for like the end of January. If we get a pretty big move in Johnson & Johnson, those calls will go up big time. So that's my one option play, at least for right now. That would be my lottery option play, I guess. You go buy a little bit out the money, go into like the 160s, mid 160s, 170 potentially, if you really want to get a little kind of lottery play. Buy like an end of January, maybe even early February call, depending on how much you want to pay for it, and see what happens. If we break out, great. I would never recommend buying a stock up here at resistance, but I'm looking for the breakout. So, that's kind of what I'm saying. I think once we break out, then those option contracts, the volatility will fly through the roof. And so then I don't want to be, paying a premium for it. So, I am in some SPACs. I am actually in AMCI personally. I'm not in IPOC. I know there's a lot of people in IPOC. I'm not in that one. Do I think that it's a bad play? No, I just didn't take it. And when I looked at taking it, it was already up too much. So AMCI, I'm in this guy. I have a 12-something average, so I'm feeling pretty decent about it. I think I bought in here. Also on top of AMCI, actually no, I bought in back in here, and then I sold some here, rebought here, sold some more here. So now I'm writing kind of almost free shares in a sense, is how I see it. So I'm in this one, and then GHIV I'm also in as well. I like this one a little bit more based on the price of where it currently is at. So I kind of like the potential here, more upside. I want to see $20 first on these two plays, and then we'll see what happens. I might take off some of my position at $20, and then we'll ride up the momentum. I mean, we saw what happened with XL Fleet, right? With PIC and XL Fleet, a merger to XL Fleet. Look at this massive move. SPACs are hot. I mean, any SPAC that you've done the due diligence, I think is, if you've done the due diligence and you're currently undervalued at the current stock price that it's at, almost all of those plays, it may take a little bit of time, a few weeks sometimes, but almost all of them make those moves. So let's see what happens. So futures currently right now are just kind of sitting fairly flat. Let's see. He signed the bill. So if he signed the bill, then that should be all. I want to get like the official update, right? I mean, I obviously can find it somewhere else, but I want to see his like Twitter page say it, but whatever. That's what it is. We'll pull it up at some point, but Workhorse $50 into March. What's going on with the Workhorse? Let's take a look at Workhorse actually. I haven't been looking at Workhorse recently. Okay, yeah, here it is. So it's getting it was in this consolidation kind of support period right in here. This $20 held up, and now it's trying to push up. So the question is going to be Workhorse. I kind of like these ranges that I have roughly set up. The next target would be like it's getting back up over to this resistance point that it was previous support resistance point. It's getting back up over 20, so $20 held up a support now. $30 I would say is the target. I mean, we pretty much did that back in here, but $30 would be where I'm looking for Workhorse. I like kind of like range trading it in these rough ranges. I mean, down here could have been a decent dip buy, but now I would say targeting up towards $30. So that's my take at least for that. And then it potentially can go further. Of course, we got news potentially coming on there as well. Okay. So if you guys would not mind smashing the thumbs up button, I appreciate you guys for joining in. That's all I ask. That's literally all I ask for you guys is just hit the thumbs up button. I appreciate it. Cscw, the gift keeps on giving. Yes, it is. Neo. Let's pull this bad boy up. Neo sold off a little bit towards the end of last week. And do I regret not taking some shares off? Just shy. It was like 10 cents shy of my first sell. I had, I bought this dip down here, bought the offering dip down here, wrote it up. I forget what percentage that was, but from like around, I have like a 40. I actually averaged up on this trade. Initial shares, I think I bought under $40. Then I bought some at like 41. Then I bought some at like 43. So I kind of averaged up. But I could have sold some at 49. I could have sold maybe like 20% of my position at that point. Potentially even rebought it. I think 45 may hold up now as support. So that's what I'm watching for Neo. But I still think with Neo Day on the 9th of January, that's a pretty big catalyst for Neo. We have the 50 SMA, which it really has not tested as support in a long time. We'd have to go back like months to find that 50 SMA back in like June. So I'm liking the 50 SMA coming up here into the low 40s. I think we have very solid support in the upper 30s. Very solid. And with the catalyst upcoming, I think that looks solid. So the overall market stays generally green. If that's the case, cool. If we still see EVs, battery plays, that type of stuff, alternative energy plays staying hot, we're looking fine for Neo. Unless we see a crazy sell-off, I don't see really any crazy market overreaction or crazy market news. I don't really see a need to sell Neo right now. I think it has more in the tank. I think it can make a run towards 60 plus literally in the next month. It certainly can with that Neo Day catalyst. So will I be holding shares through the catalyst? Most likely not. So what I'll do is I'll sell a good chunk of my position. Hopefully, ideally I'm not going to take a loss in this trade, right? Because I have a pretty low average. So I'll sell a good chunk of my position and then we'll hold a small share size through the actual catalyst. But at the same time, also note that I do have shares long-term in a long-term portfolio that I buy, I don't even think about. That's it. They're just there. I don't care. I'm not selling those anytime soon. So this is just a short-term trade idea for Neo. Let's see. How about some love to ABML? This thing is up a lot though. So now it's looking like it's trying to consolidate in this range between like $1 and $1.50. So as close to $1 potentially as possible. I wouldn't. It's tough though when you don't have that much history on a stock that's making these massive moves. If you're not getting in, I personally, the way I play it is I'm a bottom picker. I pick the bottom place. For example, ATOS. This is my bottom picker right now. I love ATOS down here in the under 90 cents. I love it. So I'm playing bottom picks. I'm bottom picking these guys, but I'm making sure my risk reward is in line. So that just doesn't align with my risk reward. If I knew more about the company, yeah, could I be fine holding it? Yeah, but if I don't know enough about the company, a lot of these penny stocks, number one, I don't trust them, and number two, you can do all your research and due diligence, but sometimes you just never know if they're going to drop that offering on you and crack you down. For example, ATOS, right? This thing drops, they do an offering, stock starts pushing up. I actually grabbed some here, had some of my sell orders hit at 115 or 1 something in the morning, and then I had half position left. They drop a second offering. Boom, crack it right down. So, you never know sometimes with some of these stocks. So, even though you might think you've done so much due diligence, and a lot of times that's awesome, and that's a good thing, and a lot of times that conviction trade is what will allow you to buy the dip. But if you don't have that due diligence and you don't have that conviction in your mind, make sure you don't want to be caught buying tops. That's how I've always screwed myself. I used to buy the tops on day trades and I would get rocked. I've just found, and there are people who love breakout trades and can crush breakout trades. Just not me. I'm not as great with breakout trades. BFT Psth. I think I do. I haven't traded it. I do. Again, it's probably first target would probably be $20 here for this guy. I just haven't taken enough of a look into it for BFT personally. DOG. I think we're talking about Dogecoin, right? I don't know. I haven't been following Dogecoin. All I know about Dogecoin at least is the Elon Musk tweet a week ago when he tweeted it. Tdcf. Oh yeah, let's pull up Tdcf. This is one of my longer term holdings as well. This is looking beautiful. I love Tdcf right now. It's looking solid. this thing, I didn't even know it's up that much. Last stream, we were like up in here, and that was looking good, but now we're approaching these all-time highs. Formerly FMCI, before the merger to TTCF, the reverse, the SPAC merger, ticker change was, so this stock I made money on this play, on this dip, and then what I did was, I didn't time the bottom, but I have an average under $15, which is kind of crazy because I somehow timed the bottom unintentionally. But it's like, I'm just going to start buying shares of this guy. And then, I haven't even had a chance to reload and buy some more because it's been running on up ever since I bought it, which is awesome. So I'm already up like almost 100% on my position on TTCF, which is great. So that's another thing too, before we, as we're going through some other stuff too. Have you heard of CEI? Yes. CEI popped up, had news, and then sold off pretty aggressively into the end of the day. CEI, I'm going to give it some time. Usually a lot of those plays, give them some time and see, let them settle down, and then that's when I'll be looking to take positions. And again, those are one of those oil plays, so when oil gets hot, one thing to also watch is USO. Look at USO, look at oil futures, things like that to get a sense. This is like looking like it wants to make its next leg up because it kind of had this little pullback. USO breaks back up over over 33.67, which is close. I could see these oil stocks running again, and I made some money on oil plays last week, but it was really just because they were sympathy plays to CEI. But I think there's some good ones. SDPI is one. Let me take a look. SDPI is an oil play to put on your list for sure. Yeah, it popped up. I think it was a sympathy play as well to CEI, but if this thing comes down under 53 cents, that's a decent spot to load up. I think this 50 SMA is solid support down around the upper 40s. I kind of like it. And if it really ever came down so far down towards this low 33 area, then that's an even better spot to potentially grab some. That seems like it's strong support as well. NXTD should be a runner tomorrow because what do we have? Bitcoin is pushing up. NXTD should be a pretty decent play tomorrow. Could be a nice gapper in the pre-market, so we'll have to see how that goes. On top of that, MVIS is one that a lot of people have been talking about too. It's got some support here in the upper 5, so like 585 or so. It's got some decent support. So I want to see it hold up around that 585. If it can't, then it could potentially come down further. They have a short report on it. They have some stuff. I don't know. They kind of have somewhat mixed information going around. So we'll see. I'm kind of curious to see if the company will come out this week and drop a press release saying, hey, this short report is not valid, if they haven't already done so, and drop a PR saying, hey, here's why this short report is kind of BS. And then if they do something like that or come out with an awesome PR, something new going on, or some great things, boom, this stock can push up. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. I'm not going to play MVIS after it hitting nearly $10. I'm sticking away from that guy for right now. Let it settle. Short report on a lot of shorts in it. Could be a massive short squeeze. Yes. But at the same time, I'm not going to be the one to risk it up here. Let's see. Stimulus got passed. So the question is going to be now, though, what do they do? So if it gets passed, right now, the question is going to be, what do they do in terms of, let's see. So President Trump has signed the $900 billion relief bill. So $600 checks and perhaps more coming. So we'll see. So okay. This is actually kind of funny because it's funny how he said that he wanted more. I wonder if they're gonna make a push this week for potentially more in checks. Market's going to be green. I mean, market's green. We kind of knew that was coming. I don't know how the market was going to react if this didn't get passed. But I think what we kind of have now is we kind of have that, hey, we know the stimulus is here. We know we have it. So it's in our back pocket. And I think that's a kind of a prop up for right now for the overall market. So things should kind of stay fairly normal. Now, of course, we'll see what happens, going into the end of January, and we'll see what happens after that. And if we do potentially get the $2,000 checks, and if that does become a thing, would it be surprised, right, if there's another package at some point in the future too? So that's good. So we got that. Awesome. We know that that's in place. Now, I'm curious to see is Bitcoin making a move because of the stimulus? I'm just trying to see. It looks like it kind of is. It's trying to do something. So it's trying to push up. So Bitcoin's pushing up a little bit. does that really matter to me? Does the stimulus have a huge effect? I don't know. I was kind of just interested to see if it would make a move off of the stimulus. ALPP. I know a lot of people have been I've heard this one a lot. I don't know enough about it, so for me, it's not something that I'm touching. But I've seen a lot of stuff about this guy, so hit 315, see what happens. That's your resistance point for right now. So I don't know. If I knew more about it, yes, I would be like, hey, this could be cool. But it's up so much. Risk reward here, just in my opinion, is not great. So if you guys are new, don't know how I like to trade. I'm very risk reward based, and so I like to kind of bottom pick. And so one to talk about for a bottom play potentially it could be Alibaba. This is going to be interesting to see what happens here with Alibaba, because actually what we can do, we can go over here and pull up. Is there any news? Pull up BABA. So the last news is that they're being investigated under anti-monopoly laws. Alibaba Group upsizes share repurchase program, US $10 billion. So, okay, now we're going to see what happens here. That's today at 7 p.m. Board of Directors has authorized to upsize the company's share repurchase program from 6 to 10 billion, effective for a 2-year period, end of 2022. Okay, so now we're going to see how the stock reacts to this tomorrow. But also here, Chinese regulators order Ant Group to rectify its businesses. This is an interesting thing because, where was I seeing it? Alibaba owns 33% in Ant Group. So that also came out this weekend as well. So there's a lot of, Alibaba could be a pretty volatile play. And I didn't touch this one because when I look for bottom plays, I look for bottom support. So when you have one candle down there, I need to see a couple of days. Personally, at least a couple candles for me, a couple of days, show me that support. Let me see that solid support. And then I'll look for an entry and I'll kind of identify my risk reward at that point. Should I continue to hold Riot? I think so. The only thing is that the question is going to be here is how large do Bitcoin stocks gap up? Does Riot gap up? And because now, okay, Bitcoin's higher than it has ever been, right? Compared to like when the market's been open, higher than it's ever been. So you would think if that is to logically correlate to what Riot's price action is going to be, and it may not, you would expect Riot to be trading almost immediately tomorrow morning up over this high, over this $15. You would immediately expect that. Will that happen? Is there going to be an opportunity to be able to grab Riot, even Mara, for example, tomorrow morning? Let's say Riot under 15 and potentially Mara. What's Mara at? Mara under 12? Maybe I forget what Mara closed at yet. Potentially Mara under 12 and Riot under 15. I think if you can grab them at those levels, you should be at least fine for a day trade minimum. Maybe ride them up a little more. At least I think what I'm going to attempt to do, and we'll see how it goes, is I may wake up at 4 a.m. Eastern time for when Webull's pre-market opens. I do have a pretty decent chunk of cash. I'm only half in the market right now, so I may take a decent size day trade, intention position where I will take a size, play if I can get Riot, or if I can get Mara, probably I'll play Mara. If I can get Mara under 12, I would probably say that's what I'm looking to do, and maybe look for my first target to be like 15, ride it to like potentially 15 if it does make a big move, and maybe I'm not able to get in the morning. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then sell a chunk there and then ride the rest. Maybe ride up 25% of that position and ride it in see how far we can go. That's kind of my take on a bunch of these Bitcoin plays. TLSA. I've actually seen a couple people talk about this one in the comments of videos and stuff like that. So TLSA, not Tesla, TLSA. This is actually looking like it potentially it's trying to make a reversal. So it bottomed out here, had this little low here at like 175. Prior history of spikes, and pretty big ones as well. So what we can do is maybe draw a little trend line right here, roughly. It's a pretty, decent slope. So it's a pretty, accelerated trend. I don't know if I'm necessarily a huge fan of it down here. Under 2 better is maybe a better spot, although the risk reward, again, if you're looking to risk it down towards the low, you're risking 75 cents for a potential move. I would say first target for me would potentially, you got to maybe up here towards like $4. So yeah, that could be a decent risk reward, I think, actually, as it looks like right now. I don't know if there's a catalyst coming. If you got a catalyst in mind, which if that's the case, boom, this thing could be a beast. And a lot of times we're also, another thing to note too, biotechs, biopharma, still should be hot into the next few months, even into January. They should still stay pretty hot. So let's see. AAL. Now, okay, that's going to be interesting to see, because let's go back to the futures really quick. I'm just want to keep checking on these guys. They didn't make a crazy move, right? Futures did not make, they were up. Now they're up a little more than they were when we started the session, right? When we started the live, because the bill has been signed. Awesome. I think realistically, that's just great news for the overall just country. Let's get the bill signed, and then we can, next steps after that. But, that's good. But at the same time, these didn't make like crazy spikes. Like if I was thinking like maybe we see a spike up now, all of a sudden futures are up 1%, 2%. So maybe that's what I was thinking, but it is what it is. So this looks good. Okay. AAL, there is money for the airlines in this bill, I believe. So AAL, you would think, makes a pretty decent move, or makes a move up tomorrow. So I think we're going to have to watch airlines for sure. Appreciate the donation. IPOC. Let's take a look at IPOC. I am not in this one, but I do like it. I think this is a $20 plus stock at some point in the next couple of weeks. It's running up. And IPOC, right, they have the date in early January, their merger date. So they should get a run up into that. And even if you do see some more volatility into that date, just because that's the case, I could still see like volatility, and then we see more of a pick to XL fleet type of move, where once the merger goes through, this thing just rips. So I wouldn't be surprised. But it broke over 15 after hours, push up to 1574, so it hits a new high, right? I like it. I think this should be a gap or candidate over 16. We should wake up to it over 16, at least in the pre-market hours. But my target would be, if I was in, I'm not, I have other SPACs, I'm in, be $20 first. First target, I can see 25. I can certainly see that. And then CCX. Let's take a peek at this guy. This is a better risk reward in my opinion. So you're sitting at a stock, you're sitting at looking at more of a SPAC play, right? That's down here. I love the risk reward down here. You can get this thing under $11. Get it while it's quiet. It seems like as of right now, and this strategy could work until it doesn't work, that SPACs sitting right around their face value, right around that $10, right? That seems like the play. Loading up there and selling into the spikes and selling into the move up. So appreciate it. The 6 to the 8th is the merger for IPOC. Yeah, so I would think what we're going to see is you're going to see slowly more volatility. So IPOC right now, right? You're going to see more volatility. The company I think is undervalued at the current stock price from the research that I have done myself. And a lot of SPACs, they are, based on the price that they come in at. They're, the $10, kind of starting price, right, that we're looking at for these acquisition companies. But that said, we've been making some extensions up. We'll see if we can hit at $20 first. Then I would expect some volatility, some choppiness. So we'll see what happens. So I'll show you like kind of an example. XL fleet is kind of what I may be thinking is going to happen. So look at XL fleet, right? Extensions up. We kind of had this initial pop, came back down, fell to 10, right? Pushed up. And then, into the merger, we actually saw a sell-off. So this might be shake people out. And then we saw the stock just rip. Merger goes through, stock gaps up, stock rips. So maybe that's what we're looking at on some of these. And there's some bigger names like IPOC, GHIV are some pretty big SPAC plays. Like these are some large, there's some decent numbers behind these plays. So I like it. I honestly like them. But I like, $20 is kind of a whole number, round number to hit first, and then we can see. They usually, what's the case has been for a lot of these plays is that they don't tend to get picked up by more media attention until they get closer to that merger date, and until they either at the merger or post-merger. Like we saw Jim Cramer talking about XL Fleet, like once the merger was like imminent or once it went through, and then the stock ripped. Now, was it the Cramer pump? I don't know. Maybe whatever you want to say, but still, right? They get more attention, more people flood into the stock, more people start doing due diligence. Hey, this actually has got some, this got some merit to it, and then boom, the stock can explode very quickly because it's, a lot of these SPACs, it seems like, the old school traders are just not catching on until a little too late. That's what it seems like for now. Let's see, THBR. Let's take a look at THBR. How has this guy been doing? Same idea here. This thing has been pushing up lately as well. So this thing ripped up in after hours, so it hit new high in after hours. Again, probably going to be gap ups on a lot of these SPACs come tomorrow, which should be a lot of fun to see. This could be a crazy SPAC week, At some point, I would anticipate at some point, that this doesn't last forever. but who knows? I hope it does, because there's certainly opportunity. And the risk reward is very easy to kind of identify, right? Buying as close to 10 as you can, selling it, on the move up, and just kind of riding shares. At least how I did, how I managed XL fleet. Literally had a $10.30 something cent average, had a chunk of shares. The thing went up over 150%. I took off half, and I'm riding the rest. That's it. So, okay. Let's see. Psth is one that I think a lot of people have been talking about as well. This is a kind of a different type of play. I personally think it's fine. $25 or so, if you can get that, I think it's fine. But if all SPACs start pushing up, I'm going to anticipate this one's going to push up as well. So Tdcf we talked about first. I mean, talked about a little bit earlier, but let's talk about it again because there's more people on the stream now. We got to break over this 28.64, which we're getting up. So the thing with Cscw though is that we're now, I would say, we can draw in like a rough range. Like here's your kind of rough range that we're like looking at right now for Cscw. This is your consolidation period in the past. We may kind of bounce around in here for a little bit, but we break out to the upside here and break a new high. I don't think Cscw's coming down back into this range at least anytime soon. I think this is an awesome stock to just play for the long term. Personally, that's just my take. I have a pretty solid average down here, so that's that. Do you reckon CCX will blow up soon, mate? Let's pull that one back up. CCX, Churchill Capital 2. This one, I don't know enough about this guy. Personally, we do have, it's sitting, so this is kind of a similar setup. Initial kind of hype behind these SPACs, rumors, whatever you want to call them, right? Then they come back down towards that $10. Then they start making their push up. So it's starting to make its push up. So maybe it looks like it starts to make a move up. That's what I want to see. We'll see what happens. Let's see. What do we got next? TMBR. Let's take a look at TMBR. Okay, this is actually looking like a decent, interesting play. It's sitting down here in the low. Let's see, looking down. So we had support down here. This is actually one that I played before. So it had support down around 90 cents, made a couple pops off that level, and now it's trying to develop a new support down here. So it's trying to put in some support around 70 or so cents. It has some wicks down. I do kind of like this play as a potential reversal. So maybe what I would do here is look for an entry as close to 70 as I can. If I can get it lower, great. Wouldn't want to see it make a new low, because when we see it make a new low, what does that mean? That's kind of cracking support and it's not looking ideal. So wouldn't want to hold it down below a new low, but my first target would probably be up towards $1, which is where that 50 SMA is sitting at. So decent, 30% or so, right, from where it's at. I kind of like that. And it has room up, stronger resistance up to around 165. If it can break above 165, then I think so. Playboy SPAC. I don't know. I've heard some rumblings about it. I don't know too much about it though. RYCEY. Okay, so Rolls Royce. I don't know what it is. So here's one thing that I just want to point out. It's starting to get some attention. So it's starting to push up. I can see Rolls Royce making a shot up here towards this 250 is my probably first target on that guy, and then we can see what happens. And there's a gap to fill up towards 325. The only thing is this live. Yes, this is live. The only thing with this is it's kind of intriguing that I've been getting a lot of comments on this guy, and I'm not sure why. Usually when I see that, that's a turnoff for me. This is an OTC play as well, I think, right? So I'm probably not going to touch it, but it does look like it's starting to make the round, rounding the corner, kind of bouncing off a bottom here and rounding its way back up. But I've gotten a lot of comments. I'm not sure if it's coming from somewhere else. Somebody's talking about it that I haven't been seeing. But generally when I see that, that's not a good sign. Because all it does for me, right, is number one, I know that it's potentially being pumped somewhere. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is, but I don't know. There's a lot of people in it. A lot of people are asking questions, which means there's potentially a lot of irrational traders in the stock. And so the first sign of potential bad news, this thing can get crushed, everyone panic sells, and so you kind of have more kind of craziness involved. And that's why I tend to stay away when I start seeing that stuff. I don't know. Technically speaking, it bottomed out here at this 150 or so, and it's making its move back up. Wouldn't want to see it below 150. If you do hold it below 150, I wouldn't want to see it below 138. If it does go below that, technically speaking, I don't like it. Appreciate the donation, man. What are your best plays for today that look good? And so, okay, so let me go. I'll pull up my positions on the left-hand side because I show you guys all this stuff. So into next week, what I do personally like is I'm looking at some bottom plays. So my favorite bottom play, if I had to pick out of all these, is ATOS, and then probably there's some other ones in here which we can talk about too. ATOS, look at this. Double offering. Stock is sitting down here in the low 80s or mid to low 80s, actually push up to the upper 80s. I want to see it get over $1, 125 first target, and then 140. They actually have some stuff in the pipeline as well, so there's a lot kind of potentially going on there. On top of that, NVIV, ticker symbol NVIV, is a similar setup. Oversold stock, gap to fill, so it's low risk reward. I'm looking for $1. I want to see $1 on NVIV. On top of that, I know someone asked about FCEL. I am scaling out of FCEL. I have a little bit left. I have like 20% of my position, my initial position left. So if FCEL pushes up, I'll ride it up. If it cracks below and starts dropping below this 1130, I'm out. That's what I'm going to do. So there's that. The SPACs that I'm in is GHIV. I think this one has more potential than AMCI is a little bit higher up in terms of price. So I would probably have to say GHIV is my favorite in terms of just the overall price that we're sitting at right now. Outside of that, I'm in a bunch of other things too. MITO has a year-end catalyst, so they're expected to have drop something before the end of the year, which now we start saying, hey, this is your last week to do so. So with that said, MITO started pushing up. Yeah, I mean, obviously your risk is much higher if you're looking to get into this guy next week. This could be a gap up candidate or a potential news candidate come Monday morning. I don't know. We'll see. Monday could be a fire day for some, penny stock news plays. This could be a fire day. I want to see $2 and then maybe even $2.50 potentially gets hit here on MITO. That's what I'm looking at. Catalyst play, oversold chart. I love that type of setup. So those are the stocks that I'm looking at. I mean, if MITO had some crazy news, here's this gap from 575, to 10 plus. I mean, that would be nuts if it did so, but I'm not expecting that. I take my 30+%, and I move on. That's just kind of how I do it. I take my 30% and I'm scaling out. Obviously, price action, volume comes in. If there's a press release, I assess that before I scale everything out, but I pretty much try to get in super low. Take my, and then if it runs further, I have skin in the game, and I ride the shares up. That's what I like to do. Let's see, blue. Blue we haven't talked about in a little bit. I think I'm out of BLU. Let's see. Okay, this thing popped up. 50 SMA support, so this 275 is support right now. Blue is popping up. I believe blue over 350 gets really interesting. That's what I'm looking at. Right now, only an IPOC got an 11, so looking good for me once it becomes Clover Health. Yeah, I think, again, right, once the mergers go through, if these stocks are not hitting expectations, right, they're not hitting $20 yet, there's a lot, due diligence is there. The value is there, in my opinion, and there's a lot of other people who will say, who would agree on that too. It may take till post-merger, so you may have to pay a little more patience on that play, but again, I think it's a solid play in at $11. You have a beautiful entry for where it's at. You're looking good. CSCW, yes, CSCW. I am holding a few shares, but I just kind of lottery played it because I didn't want to risk it already up here. I like to bottom play, right? I like to be getting in that support. That's just me. So with that said, CSCW is pushing up. It hit 89 or 90 cents in the aftermarket hours, right? Let me pull up the 4-hour chart. So CSCW hit 90 cents. I anticipate this one to be a gap up candidate because this stock, I want to see 97 cents get cleared out first. We break over 97, over $1. This thing gets pretty interesting. Reason why is because they have a catalyst on the 31st of December coming up, Thursday, right? On top of that catalyst, we also have, right, this traders popped into the stock. Volume came in big time, right? Volume precedes price. Problem was the volume came in on Christmas Eve, so there's less traders here in general. I think a lot of traders are going to come in, wake up, Monday morning, back to the grind, back to what they're doing. This stock should pop over $1. Again, that's just my kind of anticipation, my prediction. Is it going to happen? I don't know. I have a few shares that I bought in the aftermarket hours on Thursday because I wanted to grab a few shares, make a few bucks potentially tomorrow morning. That's just my take on it. STPK. Let's pull up STPK. Star peak, and wow, this is actually, look at that. Look at this move. So this thing pops up here, hits nearly 18, pulls back, pushes back, and then just really continues that move. This is just making parabolic moves. $25 would be the next target, in my opinion, just technically speaking. That $25 is the first target. I don't know enough about it though. So if I knew more about it and I had more confidence, yeah, would I hold it for more? Yes, but that's that. What site do you use? I actually use seekingalpha.com. So seekingalpha.com is where I'll go to pretty much first. And then on top of that, I'll use finviz.com. So on Finviz, I think it's actually pretty cool. So for example, like if I was to like type in a ticker like HEPA, a stock that I actually just traded it from 150 up to 220 something. So you get the chart. So if you don't know any technical analysis, they kind of do it for you. They do something for you, which is a good starting point. I recommend you do your own just so you can kind of get more experience and start to kind of see things better. But they do a good start for you. They give you a lot of information right off the bat in terms of the flow, insider transactions, insider ownership, institutional ownership, things like that. Quick numbers. And then on top of that, here's your news. So you can pull up any press release from the company, boom, right like there onto Yahoo Finance in seconds. Some more information down here, and then boom, at the bottom, they tell you the insider trading. So we're seeing that CEOs, CFOs, directors we saw in November and December were buying this stock. 160s, 150s, 190s. They're just buying this stock. Now, not crazy numbers in terms of dollar amounts, which I've seen much higher, but they're buying. That's a good sign. So this is a great site just to kind of get a sense. If you're looking up stocks and you're trying to find you're trying to do a little more digging and due diligence into some, press releases, into some other stuff, it's a great spot. On top of their website, of course, is also, great. Looking through their presentations and things like that is also super helpful just to get a sense. Of course, take it with a grain of salt because a presentation is intended to sell you on the stock, right? Like they want you to invest. They want you to buy the stock. So just understand that, a lot of that projections and things like that is projection. So take it with a grain of salt, but it's good stuff. It's certainly good stuff. I am holding EVFM right now as a potentially longer term play. So EVFM, let's take a peek at it. I don't have it in my longer term portfolio right now. I just have it in the short term account, but I'm looking for a bigger move. That's really it. So it's going to be kind of like a hold. I'm going to kind of wait and see on this guy. And I may just hold my shares and slowly scale out. Like it may be one of those plays where I just like slowly, like bit by bit sell out like 10%, 5% of the time as the stock pushes up. EVFM, I like where it's at. I like where it's kind of pushing up. I want to see the 50 SMA hold. If it can't, honestly, not a big deal. Then if it can't, $2 I want to see hold. If it comes back down towards 2, I sold my first bit of shares at 250. So I bought in at like low 2s and I bought in some more and then I sold some at 250. But like I sold like 5% of my position. So I'll buy that 5% back if it comes down to 2. If it comes down towards 2. That's kind of how I'm going to do it. From the UK, that's awesome. That's actually pretty late. Appreciate you for joining in. Appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing as well. OCGN ran up a lot too. Let's take a look at OCGN. Okay, so OCGN, here's my only problem with OCGN. Massive gap, right? Now we look at gaps. I love looking at gaps, right? From the bottom perspective where I'm looking for a gap up. Like I'll show you an example, for example, right? HEPA, here it is. So we're down here, gap up here towards 215. I love that. It filled it. Awesome. Gap is filled, right? So now OCGN, we're looking at it. Now, news aside, press releases aside, company, whatever aside, that said, understand that we still have a technical gap down to fill. The stock could certainly come down towards 80 cents, 82 cents, where there's 85 cents where this gap would be filled. The stock could certainly come down to that point and still be tremendously higher in value than it was 3 days ago or 4 days ago, right? So understand that this may come down to that point. For me, I kind of think that it may actually come down. We have some highs right up in here. So I would say $1 is my first, solid support. I would say looking at $1, and then I would say it may even come down towards 80 cents, we have this kind of high right here and this kind of wick right here. That would be a bounce point for me first if it doesn't hold up in this range right here. So now clearing right now, what it's going to do is if it breaks down below 160, breaks below the low of the day, prior day, it's probably going to signal a further move down. Just my opinion. Of course, the company can drop pre-Rs. The stock could get popped up again. Sympathy plays, who knows? News can get circulated, but that's just kind of my take on how it may move. POLA. POLA. Let's take a look at POLA. Actually, I was looking at this guy. PPSI is pushing up as well. I want to look at that one too next. So POLA is doing solid. This is actually looking like it may want to try to pop over these highs. So a little pullback on lighter volume on Christmas Eve on Thursday. So now let's see what happens. Do we recover? I would say we may have found some support up in the low to mid fives. I would like to see this thing pushing back up and potentially breaking back over that 665. If it can do that, this makes a bigger move. My voice is getting all choppy. So let's look back to the left. Always, that's how I do it. Always look back to the left. What kind of range do we have? So over 665, we look back to the left. Oop, my bad. And we're seeing highs at 685. So that'll be your next resistance point. So you're going to have resistance up around that level for sure. Then this area right here, this consolidation up in the 8s. So then maybe the $8 will be the next target. BIOL, personally not a huge fan of it. It just kind of popped. So let's take a look at it. Yeah, if it comes back down, for me, the spot to load BIOL was down under 30 cents. You know, I missed the opportunity. It was on my list. I don't know if I still have it on the list. I think I cleaned up my list for this coming week, so I crossed this one off the list for now until it comes down further. But again, that's why I think it's so important to always kind of, you know, if you want, it really doesn't take like too much time, especially because I primarily swing trade, so you don't have to be staring at the screen all day. You could be at school, you can work in a job. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be staring at the screen all day. You know, the more stuff you're in, obviously, the more focused you're going to probably want to be on the stuff that you're in. But you could, you know, situate yourself in you know, nice risk reward swing plays, you know, put alerts up on your phone, on your broker, so that if the thing drops below, for example, BIOL, you know, if I took a position or if I was watching it, right, I don't want to see it drop below 25 cents. It does so, I want to get alerted. I usually don't use hard stops. I use mental stops. That's how I play it generally, because many times you can get a quick wick down and then it recovers right away, like we saw here with this little wick down below 25, and it recovered beautifully. And then 3 days later, the stock's up at 35 cents. And you're like, you know. So let's see. NBRV, I have not. Let's pull it. I'm in this guy. Let's pull this bad boy up. Where is it? NBRV. I like this one a lot because this one looks exactly like, this is like a very similar chart, or, you know, recent chart to HEPA. Look at this gap to fill up towards 325. We came down here, found support around 230, and we're just uptrending. So now let's see if we come back down and double bottom, where it pushes up, it bottoms back out towards 230 or so, holds that as support, doesn't make a new low, and then recovers back up. That would be great. So what I would do here is if NBRV comes back down under 250, I'll be buying more, with the intention, if this thing drops below 230, out. So I'm keeping my risk. I'm keeping it pretty tight, right? So my risk reward is in play. But again, my first target is 325. So I want to see NBRV go to 325. So my reward here is beautiful compared to my risk. You know, I'm looking for potential, you know, 75-cent upside with a 20-cent downside if I'm buying this thing sub 250, which I think I have. I already have shares under 250, which I bought down here, and it pushed up a little bit. Now it's pulling back potentially. We'll see what happens. Jumia. Let's pull this up. JMIA. It's at the trend line. It's literally at the trend line. So I kind of think it's fine as long as it continues to stair-step that pattern. Although at some point, this trend line, the more times you hit the trend line, eventually you're going to crack below the trend line. So just understand that, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I mean, is the 6th time a charm where it breaks down below? It certainly could. But also, you do have some, you know, potential support. So let's draw this in. Prior high right here, prior resistance right up in here. So this $40, around that 40 area, I would say is your support. So I wouldn't want to see this thing dropping below like 40, 50. $40 and 50 cents. 40, 50 is probably my cutoff point if I'm looking to play this guy. So again, you're situating yourself with like a $3, downside risk for a move back up. Over 50 can get really interesting on this guy. ACST. Let's pull this bad boy up. This one again popped up a lot. Let's see it pull back down towards a 50 SMA maybe. So maybe it comes down towards 30 and holds 30. Maybe it comes down towards 25. I personally would have liked it down here. It was also on my list. I just didn't take the trade and it popped up. We've been seeing a lot of penny stocks that are sub $1, sub 50 cents even, blowing up. We'll see if that kind of theme continues. And sometimes with a lot of these themes with penny stocks, it's so random. Like it's literally like the most random stuff because it's like you're trying to find a theme and like, okay, what's the theme? What's hot right now? Like a week or two ago, it was recent IPOs. So like it had nothing to do with the company. The company didn't matter what the company was. It didn't matter that this recent IPO starts running. This other recent IPO could be in a completely different sector, but it's a recent IPO and it ran. Like these things were going like 100% plus, like insane. So all of a sudden it comes down. It's looking like, we're seeing stocks that are under 50 cents, under $1, like micro pennies. They're running. Like all of a sudden it's like kind of random, but if you can catch that trend quickly and identify it, that could really set you up for some beautiful plays. Mara is a great Bitcoin play. I like Mara tomorrow morning. I do. Ideally, I would like to see if I can get that under 12 tomorrow morning. We'll see what happens. Let's see. MVIS, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes back a little bit. We'll see what happens. I'm waiting to see if the company comes in and says and clears up the short attack that they kind of got. Price target of 150, and we'll see if the company says anything about that next week. TTCF, we got to break through. TTCF, for those who are new, we were talking about this earlier, we got to pop through this kind of top range of resistance right here. We're in this consolidation period, so we can break through that. That's going to be pretty nice. Penny stocks are very volatile. Yes, they are, but they can be traded like anything else. They can be traded. Short the penny stocks. Short them when they're after news is when you want to short them. You don't want to be. The problem with that though is like, if, for example, like if you're shorting like ASTC, not ASTC or ACST, right? You're shorting ACST, you get blown out when this thing runs for no reason up 100%. So I haven't personally been someone who just likes a short because I like to just stick to what I like to do, and so I play bottom plays. So why would you be, for example, like other stocks like MFH is a stock that has a high short percentage of the float. Why are you shorting MFH, for example? Like if you're shorting MFH, why are you shorting it here, right? Short it up here towards the top of this range. So you can make so much money on the short side. You just kind of have to know what you're doing because you can get squeezed and crushed if you're a brand new beginner. So that's something that I'm definitely going to diversify at some point in the future into doing more of, but I'm just kind of working with what works for me for right now. So playing bottom plays, low risk, high reward plays, is how I like to do it. Cause they spike, these stocks spike, that's what they do. So as long as you're ready to take advantage of the spikes, you can totally kill it on a lot of these things. TPGY. I don't generally trade, OTC stocks either. So for those who are, potentially asking about OTC stocks, I don't really trade them. Doesn't mean that you can't trade them. I just haven't really been someone who does so. So I'll eventually probably dabble into that more. I'm just kind of sticking with what works for me personally. So this thing, not much chart history for me to go off of right here. So maybe if it comes down, support here like 2750 or so, where this prior high was, maybe that's what you're looking at for support. If not, out of this gap, they have a pretty decent gap. So yeah, I don't know if it's going to come down that far. I don't know enough about it, though. Financial holding companies. I don't know enough about it. Okay, so I got some questions about CBAT. Let's take a look at CBAT. I know someone was asking about this one recently. I forget in comments of something. So it bounced off the 50 SMA, so that's a decent bounce, but it pushed up to like 750, and it's getting rejected around that level. So we'll kind of have to see what happens with CBAT. I wouldn't be surprised if it starts heading back down towards his 50 SMA. And many times when it comes back down the second time, it may crack below. So not a huge fan unless we get a continuation move in a lot of these types of plays. I don't know. We'll have to see. SUNW is one that I also think people were asking me about recently. This one looks decent. Reason why is because it's kind of holding up and it's kind of putting in higher lows, so I kind of like that look. Found support here on 265, and it bounced and made a big move. So here's your U up towards 8. Now the question is putting in higher lows. So higher lows, 50 SMA support just below this blue line, so that's looking pretty good on the daily chart. Now the question is, can we get over this 535, 550 area and make a shot up here? I don't know. We need to get a lot of momentum in this sector, right? Again, in the renewable, space, in the renewable energy sector. Again, I think it stays hot, but we'll see how this goes. This could potentially be a play for later in January. Renewables could get hot again, or just continuation play throughout the year. This could be a hot play. POLA we briefly talked about, but it's got to kind of get up here. It's got to break back above these levels. If not, I want to see it put a higher low, maybe down towards the 50 SMA, maybe towards $4 could be a better support buy, for example. That's just what I would be doing. Let's see. TNXP went from 59 to 90. Lesson learned about Robinhood. Yes. Think I should take small gains or wait for a bounce? Let's take a look at TNXP. Yes. That's what it took me to learn that too with Robinhood. Now, those who are new, I know I 100% can see the appeal. I know there's people who probably in the comments will be like, screw Robinhood, it sucks, whatever. It's a broker that appeals to a lot of people, so I get it. The only problem here with this guy is that it may bounce, but when you don't have a broker that has access to extended hours or pre-market hours trading, I wouldn't recommend you touch a lot of these penny stocks unless you're playing a penny stock that has more potential longevity, that has a lot more catalysts, that you've done due diligence, you believe in longer term. Most penny stocks that I play, I always buy them in an account where I have access to pre-market and after hours. And almost every time I'll set my orders ahead of time. So if I buy TNXP, for example, I have my orders set. Like if I bought TNXP down here towards this trend line at like 50 or 60 cents, I'm looking for maybe 75 cents as my first target. I'm setting that order immediately so that if I'm paying attention or not, it's going to hit. Or it may hit, right? Of course, it may not get there. But if it hits, I'm out. And I took my profits. And I don't do for the full size, but I put at least 10, 20, 30% of my position. I take it off on certain price points where I set those orders immediately after I buy, just because that, number one, reminds me of my initial plan. I go back to the chart. Why did I set this order here? Oh, okay, yeah, here's why. There's a gap. There's a resistance point right here. There's this. Okay, or natural area, 75 cents, every 25 cents in penny stocks, or every whole number, every whole dollar level. That's where I'll kind of do. That's kind of how I'll do it. I don't think it's, and Robinhood's not terrible if you're using it for long-term investing, for like dividend investing, for that type of stuff. It's fine. I think it's fine. I mean, I have a Robinhood account and I have money in there for that type of stuff. Cash management, you're going to earn interest on your cash. Yeah, rates are super low, so it's like, okay, whatever right now, but it's not bad. But if you're trading, if you're looking to be more active in trading, I would recommend a different broker, a more advanced broker, like Webull, like TD Ameritrade, something like that at least. Let's see. OZON. What is this guy? This is like the Russian Amazon. Okay, so it popped to 50, pulled back. So here's what I right off the bat, what I kind of can see on OZON. Rough area, rough downtrend. So here's your rough downtrend, and you're kind of putting in, higher lows. So it looks like if it can hold up around 40 or so, this could be a decent downtrend break back to the upside for a bigger move. Not much chart history to go off of here, and I don't know much about them, to be honest. But that said, just setting up for a potential breakout of this downtrend. Robinhood, for beginners, Robinhood, if you're just starting out and you don't know anything about orders and that, it's fine. Get used to it. But you'll realize it quickly. Like if you're trying to be more active in your trading, then you'll realize, hey, I got to get something, I got to expand into a more high-tech, I guess, broker. BFT, let's pull up BFT. Hit 1585, pushing up. Okay, so this is Okay, so it's going to be sitting up here with a lot of these SPACs pushing up. I would like to see this thing hit $20 potentially next is the point. Although the question is going to be though, does the SPAC momentum die at some point this week? I don't know. It may have a dip, it may slow down. You may get negative press on like CNBC. There may be articles that start floating around about all these SPACs and how they're risky, and there already has been and whatnot. But I think a lot of what we're seeing now is that we're seeing solid SPACs. Honestly, we're seeing like literally like solid SPACs that are the ones that are running. So honestly, it's AKBA. This one actually I think I like a lot. Why? Because AKBA is sitting at that 50 SMA, but it's kind of, okay, here's the range. So you're in kind of AKBA. If you're someone who's in it, and here's what I think someone was asking about this one, hey, should I sell it? Here's why why would you sell it? Like understand, here's your range, okay? I personally, if I'm someone, I like to buy it down as close as I can towards the bottom of the range, towards support. 209, so $2 or so is your support. It's sitting up towards 3. The range is from like 375, 385, honestly like $4 to $2. So you have a pretty big range, but you have a massive gap to fill up towards 10. So with AKBA, if you're in it for a catalyst or you're in it just for a technical play, it's sitting right here. The point that I'm looking at to sell this stock is I'm looking to buy this stock on the way down to slowly add to my position. So I'm not just going in full position here at 292. Buy this thing down to 2. It breaks below $2. It breaks below that bottom support. I'm out. Okay? Or we get a breakout over 4 and it could get a pretty big run to 5+. I could certainly see. So you either sell into this move up or you sell once it cracks support. You're kind of in no man's land, so it could be a patience play because it's been here for, since September. So I can see why if you're in it, I can see why, you may be getting bored or you may be getting like impatient. So if you see value somewhere else that is kind of shorter term, sure, go for that. But if you're willing to be patient, there's no reason to sell this guy right now, unless there's negative news or you no longer like the play for whatever reason. But for me, technically speaking, I no longer like it when it breaks down through support, or I no longer like it when it breaks back up and I'm taking profits. That's it. IGC. IGC also has the cannabis ties as well. So this is what we've been seeing. IGC actually is a very interesting play because had a big spike, came down, and it's done this pattern multiple times where it kind of comes down, puts in higher lows, rounds the corner, and pushes up. So it makes a good 20 plus 50% potential move almost every time. So from like 110 to 175, from here like 120 to 260. Now it's showing some signs of support here and putting in higher lows roughly from this 160. So it's, stair-stepping its way on up. And I do kind of like the cannabis sector into the next year. So I do kind of like this guy. Personally, though, here's your trend line. So, okay, I would be looking to be buying some here and have cash on hand ready to go. If it does kind of maybe bounce towards 150, and if it does come down, lowest I'd be willing to hold this thing is down towards the trend line. So down towards like 130-ish. If I extend this line, if I extend this trend line a little bit to the upside, I would be willing to hold this thing down towards like 140, 130. And that's my lowest ad spot. If it breaks below the trend line and cracks below that and holds below for a day or two, no longer a fan, would be getting out. But it may be looking like it's going to be setting up to repeat the same exact pattern that we've been seeing the past couple of weeks, months, really. It's oversold, kind of pops up, pushes back, pushes up, comes back down, does the same thing, higher lows, and it's doing it again. So I do like IGC into the next year personally. And NDM we haven't talked about. I actually personally, okay, I'll talk about what I did for NDM really quick. Losing my voice talking all this much. But NDM, I had a decent amount of NDM, nothing crazy in my long-term portfolio, and I had an average in the 4s, and I finally sold out of it because I said, okay, NDM now does nothing against NDM. But personally, I'm up over 100%. I sold this thing over 10. I'm up over 100%. And it happened in like a month and a half. That's solid. I'll move on. And I have other SPAC plays and other positions that I wanted to get into at the time. So that's what I decided to do when I sold out of my NDM. I think I bought Cscw was one of the SPACs I bought last week in the longer term portfolio. So But that said, I like $8 support. It's trying to hold up around $8.50. $8 support. Why is that the level? Because that was a previous high, previous resistance up around 8. And it's got to kind of looks like it's trying to consolidate and put in higher lows right here, and maybe make a move back to the upside. So I kind of like it. It's what it's been doing lately is stair stepping and so on. They've had a lot of offerings. I have reason to believe here for NNDM that they will not drop another offering, at least short term, is because as of, I believe, the 12th or the 17th of December 2020, they are debt free. No debt. They have no debt. So the reasons to raise money, there's potentially less reasons to raise money here. So we'll see what happens. I personally kind of like that. So, I sold mine, but I wanted to move on to something else because I was up, plenty on it. Doesn't mean I don't like it though. That's just what I did. Hit the like button. Yeah, guys, I know this is like one of the record low for the amount of viewers we've had, on the stream. This is one of the record low streams, which is unfortunate, but, it is what it is. If you guys wouldn't mind the like button. So Hyliion is sitting right down in here. I think it's fine, honestly, longer term. I wish we saw some more action from them personally, but I think it's in a decent spot. I don't want to see it dropping below 15, to be honest with you. I wouldn't like that, but it's in a decent spot. It's got some resistance. It's got some consolidation right in here. Hopefully, this is for the, consolidating before the next move up into this kind of move towards 25. That's what I want to see for Hyliion. It's down around this point, though, where I would say personally, let's draw in some lines. I don't want to see it down below that 15-ish area. So down below this low. If it does that, then it's like, stay tuned to the company. Of course, if you believe in the company long term, that's a whole different story. But technically speaking, it's getting to that point where it's like, I don't know. I can clear up some of these lines because it's kind of getting a little ridiculous. Okay. Charles Schwab Street Smart Edge. I don't know. I don't have experience with the app. Cscw. This one's. I want to see this one. For those who have not heard me talk about Cscw. This one, I want to see this one pushing over $1. So 97 cents is the first point for me. Why do I say 97 cents? Is because we go back to the left, and in pre-market and after-hours trading on the 13th, I believe, 13th at 8 a.m., so pre-market hours on the 13th of October, we hit 97 cents. That's the first level of resistance. We break above 97 cents and break above $1 on Cscw, I would be potentially targeting up around here. So up around this 140, 150 area would be my next target. They have a catalyst, a product launch on the 31st. Here's the only thing with the product launch situation, though. If we go back to our good old friend EVFM, which I am back in EVFM, I do like what they have in the pipeline going forward. But here's a situation of a product launch play, EVFM. They launched a product up in here in September. I forget what date exactly they launched, maybe the 9th or something. The stock pushes up in anticipation of the launch. The launch actually happens and the stock sells off. There was no offering. The stock sold off on top of the launch happening in the sell-off. It was kind of a sell the news event. The CEO sold shares to buy her parents a house, I believe. Like, it was kind of a crazy story. But that's something to just understand. So the 31st is our catalyst launch date. And a lot of people might think, okay, for Cscw, awesome, 31st, I'm going to hold it, and then the catalyst is going to come, we're going to blow up. No, a lot of that, we'll see what happens, but just understand a lot of that gets priced in ahead of time. So the move may happen right now. And honestly, who knows? It may just open up tomorrow and may push back down. But we moved up 36%, and that was, it's already up a lot. 36% during the day, and then 36 or 16% after hours push up. So, that's pricing in this catalyst, right? And that's that. Skipped MKC. Let's pull up MKC. My bad. Okay. Oh, this actually looks pretty good. So, you guys know, most people know that I mostly trade small caps. I mostly trade penny stocks, but I'll trade anything, honestly. It doesn't have to be, small caps. But here's your downtrend line. So right off the bat, downtrend line right here, very, fairly easy to see. We have 3 hits. First hit up here, second hit here, third hit here. Rough hits, rough areas. And now what we have, which I love, is uptrending support. So uptrending support, up towards that trend line, and we're getting to that breakout point. So I love these types of setups because you can it's fairly easy and straightforward to see. Sorry, this chart's throwing me off. It's fairly easy to see. And when you can see something like that, here's your, okay, there we go. I just lined that up nicely. When you can see this point, you're getting to a point, either you're going to pop to the downside or you're going to pop to the upside. And if you pop to the upside, breakout over 100 would be great. And then 105 will be the next points for this potential breakout to the upside. So I kind of like that. IDC, higher lows. Yeah, I think IDC can make a nice little push. It's uptrending. It's putting in, higher lows, looking nice. Let's see. NWBO. Northwest Bio. Okay, this is putting in higher lows, uptrending, and it just kind of exploded up 20% on Thursday. So for me, it's going to make me make a shot up towards $2, I would say, first, natural area of resistance, and then 250. So those are your two next levels. You have support here where it's at, so 150 I would like to see hold now for putting in higher lows, but $2 and then 250 are your next areas of resistance that I would like to see as potential targets to the upside. I'm currently using Weeble's desktop platform, and you guys can still get, well, actually no, all jokes aside, I use Webull, and I have an affiliate link to Webull as well. I get a free stock. You guys get 4 free stocks when you use this platform when you sign up to deposit $100. That should be linked in the description box of all my videos. But I'm using Webull's desktop platform, and they actually are pretty solid, to be honest with you. I've been loving the platform the past couple of months. I've been using it more actively, and they've been just making small little upgrades here and there. It's been pretty good. Let's see. JAGX. JAGX is an interesting one because I think it's probably headed down, in my opinion, because we've got a gap here down towards 50 cents or 45 cents. If it breaks below the lows here, if it breaks below 65 and breaks below 63, not a fan of JAGX. Maybe it comes down and finds 50 or so cents to be support. That would be my spot for JAGX. IDEX. I know a lot of people like IDEX, IDEX. Another thing to note too is that what we also can watch, and just kind of like a little thing that just I've picked up, and as the more you kind of do this, you pick up little things. When you see a lot of people who are asking about a certain stock, when you see a lot of people talking about a stock on social media, sometimes it's not a good thing. You can talk about the pump ups and the pumpers and whatever you want to call them, but a lot of times you get a lot of people in the stock that have no idea what's going on and keep asking. If you have to keep, and I appreciate everyone asking questions because we can chart and talk about ideas, but in general, right? If someone is always asking about a stock, you see people always asking about a stock, that may not be the best thing because you may know that signals to you, in my eyes, what I say it's a cult stock. So there's a cult behind it. So GNUS was a cult stock. XSBA is a cult stock. IDX, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is a cult stock because there's just a lot of people that talk about it all the time and always ask questions on it. Now, it definitely has bounced off this 175 pushing over 2, so it's got to push back up over this high right here. So over 240, over 250, then the party gets started back up potentially towards $3. So I kind of like the reversal that it's making. So those are my next levels on IDX. But again, I personally am not someone who that's why I didn't trade it back in here, because on the EV kind of hype, because I knew it was kind of a cold stock. I just didn't touch it. Now, do your own due diligence, of course. If you like it, then that's all for I'm all for it. But from my experience, that's kind of what I found is that's usually not a good thing. Because what happens is you have a lot of potential bag holders, so people who bought up super high, who are always asking, is it going to come back, is it going to come back, is it going to come back, and they haven't sold. And so any chance they get a chance to sell, right, the stock pops up, they sell into that spike or into that pop, and then momentum gets killed, potentially. I have NEO. I do have NEO. Pull this bad boy up. I bought NEO down here after the offering and rode this thing up, and I was 10 cents shy of my first sell hitting at $49.97. But I was going to sell 20% of my position up there from an average down in the low 40s. I want to see a bigger move. I want to see a move potentially breaking out over all-time highs. That's what I kind of want to see for NEO. Let's see. FCEL. FCEL, I want to see this thing pushing up, but we'll see what happens. If this is kind of my levels on FCEL. So if we can if we kind of find support here on 1130, that would be ideal around 1130. But if that can't hold 1130, then I don't like FCL anymore. So I bought in up here. I bought in here actually. I had an average in the upper 8s. I wrote it up to 13s, and I sold 75% of my shares, I think, in the over 13. So I'm not going to go right on this trade. Won't happen. But for me, the stop point is 1130. I think it could go further if we get the continuation in a lot of these types of plays into this week. But that's just kind of how I'm playing it. Let's see. GameStop. Let's take like GME. It's an interesting play. I know people have been talking about this guy. GameStop has been pushing up a lot the past couple of months, and it's been doing well, but it just hit a new high actually, which is kind of crazy. So personally, it just hit a high, maybe consolidates. Maybe it's trying to do what we had happen in the past, where it pops up, consolidates, and then makes the next move, pops down, maybe pops back up. So that's what I would be watching for GME. That said, I'm going to talk about a couple other stocks, and we'll kind of wrap things up relatively soon. We've been going for over an hour and a half now. XL, I actually have XL in a long-term portfolio. I like it. What I did was I had bought XL when it was PIC, back when it was like under $11, under $10.50 was my average. And so when it ran up over $30, right? Is that what it went to? XL? Where did it hit? It hit like 34. It hit 35. So when it ran up that high, I sold half, and I'm going to ride the rest. So I'm just kind of riding, free shares in a sense. AMBO I like a lot. Here's my AMBO chart. It's coming down towards this kind of trend right here. So AMBO, I like it. Right around $2 is pretty good. I don't want to see it dropping, making a low below this 164, 165 area, but I like AMBO. SNGX. Let's take a look at SNGX. Let's see. SNGX is getting up there. So it's up at one. Where is it? Oh, it's down. It's down. Okay, this actually could be interesting. This could be kind of one of those bottom plays that I like to play. So had some prior support right around 130-ish. It wicked down to 120, but if it can hold up around 130, that could be a good spot. So let me just draw this line really quick. And I would like to see it holding up around this level for a move. This thing, maybe give it a little bit of time. I'm not sure exactly if this was an offering or whatever that caused this. But that said, it has a gap. It has a pretty nice gap. So risk reward wise, this could be a good buy. We'll look at CLVS, and then we'll look at starting to we'll wrap things up here soon. CLVS actually looks decent. It's breaking out of this downtrend, so it looks decent. I kind of like it. It's got to get above 570 or so. Then it can make the next leg up. I like CLVS. I know a lot of people who love trading CLVS. It looks like it could be a decent play. Let's see. That said, let's go back to futures. Just kind of tuning in. Trump signed the COVID relief bill. So futures are green, up about 0.5% across the board. Small caps looking like they're going to be solid tomorrow. So that's a great sign for a lot of us who are trading those. And that's a good sign for the overall market. $600 stimulus checks, I think, coming out now. We'll see. Of course, he wants 2,000. We'll see what happens with that. Overall market, this should be good. This should be good for just generally the economy, I would say. Number one. But number two, just should be good for the overall market. For now, this should be a solid week. We know at least we have it. Now, whatever crazy news goes back and forth, it's not going to affect the market as much, in my opinion, because we got stimulus. We got the first piece. Now, it's not as big of a deal as potentially was expected, a few months ago, but we got that. Do you stream on most nights? I stream every single Sunday night. And actually, while that's said, next Sunday, we'll see. We may do a shortened version of this. We'll see. I'll let you guys know. But what I'm going to do this week is we're going to do 2, because I know people are home and stuff like that. Generally, this is like a vacation. People are off this week. I'm going to do 2 streams Tuesday and Thursday morning. So during the morning hours of the market sessions, I'm going to live stream. And these streams will stay up on the channel. They just stay up. You can go and rewatch them. That's what I'm going to do. And I can, of course, potentially do some night streams during the week too as well, just to kind of update things. Of course, if something crazy happens, we see a big sell-off, a big rip in the market, then I might do a live stream kind of pop up. But generally, I post a video pretty much every day for those who are new. On top of that, we stream every single Sunday. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Awesome stream. I thank you guys so much for watching. Hope everyone had a good holiday weekend. I'm thinking about using Webull because of the hotkeys. Yeah, there's hotkeys on Webull as well. 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern trading hours. I lies in those pre-market runners and take advantage of stuff like that, which I love. So, for example, tomorrow morning, Bitcoin stocks, MARA, RIOT, NXTD, MFH. A couple off the top of my head that I'll be looking at, potentially, waking up early to see if I can grab. So appreciate you guys for joining in. All I ask is on the way out, you hit the thumbs up button. Have a good night. Stay green. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video.